You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Sunday, January 5th, and the 49ers just completed their 2024 season with their Week 18 game against the Cardinals, and it pretty much went the same way that every game this season has gone for the 49ers. As of right now, the game's not even over, but quite honestly, doing this post-game early kind of gave me an excuse to not watch the end. There's about 4 minutes left. The Cardinals are up 40-24. So I think we can effectively say that the 49ers will not be winning this game unless there's some sort of unforeseen miracle. And it basically means that the 49ers have clinched the 11th overall pick in the draft. So that's the sweet part of this. If you were, obviously, you're maybe hoping for the 49ers to win. They didn't. So the consolation prize is that they get a better draft pick at the very least. But there's a lot to discuss with this game. And I call it a glorified preseason game because it really felt that way. A lot of 49ers were going to be out for this game. Purdy, Debo, Lenore, just to name a few key ones for the 49ers. And there were a few on the Cardinals side as well, like James Conner wasn't going to be playing in this game. But for the most part, I think they were going into this game a little healthier than the 49ers were. And as the game went on, the 49ers just started dropping like flies. Isaac Guerendo, first drive for the 49ers, ended up with a knee injury and an ankle injury on the same play, and he was carted off the field, and looking very emotional as he was carted off, as you can imagine. So that effectively ended his rookie season. And I mean, we're still waiting for the prognosis on that one, but he was called out or designated as out very quickly. Like, I don't even think 5 minutes had passed before they said he was out for the rest of the game. So generally not a good sign, but we will wait to see what Kyle Shanahan has to say about the injuries. As for Isaac Guerendo, it's possible that we don't know more until tomorrow when they get to do MRIs. But a couple of other injuries that happened in this game that we'll be tracking and waiting for Kyle Shanahan's response on. Malik Mustafa, he did not return to this game with a knee injury. He exited sometime, I believe, in like the second quarter. And then Talanoa Hufanga also exited this game and did not return with a concussion. And in the fourth quarter, pretty late in the fourth quarter, Colton McKivitz, that was one of the last plays I saw, actually. Colton McKivitz gets his knee twisted awkwardly. It did not look good. He ends up getting carted off into the locker room as well. So bad gets worse for the 49ers. It's just not great. I mean, we already knew this season was done with, but for some of these players to potentially have long-term injuries, we're hoping it's not. But for some of those guys, especially, I'm looking at Guerendo and maybe Colton McKivitz, that's very worrisome for this team. So, yeah, at the end of it, for the 49ers, they were very shorthanded on the offensive side of the ball and defensive side of the ball. Like, they elected to keep guys like George Kittle, out for most of this game. He did play a few snaps in the first quarter, had a couple catches, but did not return from that point on. Kyle Juszczyk remained in. He had a touchdown in this game and a long pass from Josh Dobbs, so that was pretty exciting. But yeah, for the most part, Dobbs was throwing to, Ricky Pearsall, Chris Conley, and to start the game, he was throwing to Juwan Jennings. I want to spend some time on Juwan Jennings here because he came into this game only needing, I believe, 77 yards to reach 1,000 yards on the season. The first time he would have ever done that. It would have been a great accomplishment and a great cherry on top to what has been a good season for Jennings. I've never seen anything like this. There were 2 consecutive plays where Jauan Jennings pancakes a dude on a block, 2 different corners, by the way, that he pancakes to the ground, and both times the corners end up fighting with him at the end. They get pissed off and they start throwing bows. I mean, Jauan Jennings, shared a little extracurricular activity as well. He's not just going to take a punch, but he ends up getting ejected from the game, as did the corner in the second one. I forget which corner it was on the Arizona side that got ejected as well. But Jauan Jennings, with 25 yards left needed for the 1,000 yards from that point, he got ejected. And mind you, it's not like he was the one that instigated the incident. I mean, blocking, that's not called for a personal foul or anything. He's doing his job, right? It was the Arizona DB that, instigated the fight, and he should have been the one to get ejected. He did, but I didn't think Jennings deserved to get ejected. I mean, what are we even doing here? And so that tells you the story of Jauan Jennings, that the way that he did not get his 1,000-yard season was because he went out blocking the hell out of dudes. That's so on brand for Jauan Jennings. And while it's very unfortunate that Jennings wasn't able to get that 1,000-yard milestone, man, I think we all came out of that game with a different type of appreciation for Jennings and what he does this is the second game in a row as well that I think he's pissed off corner from the opposing team or a defensive player for opposing team based on his blocking. That's power. That's power right there. And by the way, I did tweet this out. I was like, the 49ers should give him his bonus anyway. I later found out he does not have a oh wait. All right. Sorry. I just seen some tweets and it freaked me out. I thought Matt Barrows was breaking some news here. Let me just double check. Okay. Matt Barrows just suggested that the 49ers relocate Nick Sorensen as special teams coordinator. But I don't think that's news. He's not saying that happened. But it scared me when I saw that. So sorry for the pause. But we'll talk about special teams here in a bit. But yeah, I found out that Jauan Jennings does not have a bonus for 1,000 yards for the season. So we don't need a campaign for that or anything. But I guess that's the good thing. There wasn't any money tied to him getting 1,000 yards. It would have just been a milestone for him, and it would have just capped off, like I said, a great season for him. But man, do I love Jauan Jennings and just the power that he brings, the energy that he plays with. I mean, he doesn't care if he's getting the ball or not. He loves pancaking dudes. I said it last week. He'll pancake your grandma if he had to. So yeah, love to Jauan Jennings. I want to talk about Dobbs. Early in the game, I think Dobbs was very focused on getting Jennings the 1,000 yards. It seemed like he was force-feeding him a bit at times, like even ill-advised throws, like trying to get him the ball. The ill-advised throws did not stop, however, after Jauan Jennings exited this game. Dobbs did have some nice plays in this game. I'll give him that. But he also had 2 interceptions. So he finished 29 of 43, 326 yards, an average of 7.6 yards per attempt or yards per catch, and 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He also took 2 sacks. And he had a couple runs as well, including one that went for a rushing touchdown. So in total, he had 3 touchdowns on the day, 8 carries, 17 yards. So, there was some good to Dobbs, but it's like I always say, when it comes to him, too much of Dobbs is not a good thing. Like he's good in short spurts, and you can see he does have talent. He does have the ability to, escape the pocket, extend plays. that's all good and dandy. But, he also has some boneheaded plays as well, where he will turn the ball over, just make questionable decisions, put the ball in harm's way. So, all in all, it was fine. It was kind of what I expected from Dobbs in this game. I do have to say, both defenses left much to be desired. Let's just leave it at that. Both defenses were bad. Oh, God, I guess I just checked the score again. The Cardinals scored again. So I just looked at the final score, 47-24. So they scored again, before, man, it looked like it was a run up the middle for 46 yards. And at that point, it was Clayton Tune at quarterback, and it was their backup running back who got the score. On that note, let's talk about this 49ers defense because, man, they looked terrible. There was no fight left in that 49ers defense. And as mentioned, there's some injuries that they're dealing with. Malik Mustafa exited, Hufanga exited. So you don't have two of your starting safeties for this game by the end of it. And so you have Jair Brown, and then you had Tashawn Gibson finishing the game. But even then, aside from Renardo Green, let's just say what we need to say about Renardo Green. He was great in this game. He had 3 pass breakups in this game, and I believe one of those technically didn't count because it was a penalty on the Cardinals. But his disruption at the catch point, him getting his hands in there last second, that is clutch. I do love what I've seen from Renardo Green, and he's definitely someone that I am looking forward to seeing more of in 2025. And I do think the 49ers are going to move forward with Diamador Lenore and Renardo Green as the 2 outside corners for next season. And the way Renardo Green finished out this season, it was strong. It was strong. So I'm really excited to see him, more of him. I think he was the only bright spot in this game for the 49ers defense. There were times where D. Winters, he's in there, he's fast, and, he gets in there fine. He had 6 tackles in this game. He was fine. He certainly wasn't part of the problem, but as a whole, this defense is just terrible. And I have many questions about this defense now because I think, I gave Nick Sorensen benefit of the doubt for much of the season because I was hey, he doesn't have the same personnel that, DeMeco Ryans had or even Steve Wilkes had 1 year ago. He's really had to build his defense off of not scraps because there's still some good guys. There's still, Bosa, Leonard Floyd, Fred Warner. Those are good guys. There's still no excuses. But I was just we can't really fairly compare him to DeMeco or Wilkes' first season just because I was he doesn't have the same players and there's much less talent and there's a lot of rookies and there was a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. Yes, that is all true, but some of his decision-making, I think, for defensive play calling is just kind of questionable at times. It's not very aggressive at all. I think we saw maybe there was more than one blitz. I remember the one on 3rd down early in the game. It was a Nick Bosa stunt and then Fred Warner on a blitz. That was good. Blitzing is great for this game because Kyler Murray has struggled with it. But again, the 49ers blitz at the 3rd lowest rate in the entire league. So they weren't exactly going to change that in the final game of the season. But that's just the thing, right? This defense, not very aggressive. And that's just a difference from what we've seen from this team in the past. And again, yes, they had better players then, but even just soft coverage at times, it's just, they were getting bullied out there. And I don't like to see that. I don't think anyone likes to see that. And I'm not used to seeing that for this defense. The one argument I can make for bringing Nick Sorensen back is that the defensive room These defensive players need stability. They need continuity. It would not be good for this 49ers defense to have a third season in a row. Or would it be fourth? Fourth season. Yeah. Am I counting right? Third or fourth season in a row with a new defensive coordinator. Like, I don't like that, because every time you're going to end up with the same thing of whoever comes in is going to have to kind of, build this defense and their repertoire with the players from scratch. And honestly, like, Sorensen didn't even have to do that. Like, he was already in the building. These players were already familiar with him. The trust was already there. So in that sense, Sorensen did have a bit of an advantage over, say, a Steve Wilks last season, right? Because Steve Wilks was a hire from outside of the building. So maybe that's another knock on Sorensen for not being able to make this defense look serviceable much of this season. And certainly, like, towards the end, it just did not look good. And it just didn't look like they had any fight in them. Again, aside from Renardo Green, I think that's the only positive that I could take from the defense today. To give up 47 points to the Arizona Cardinals in this final game is just gross. That's gross. And, the Cardinals defense wasn't too much better, but we're talking about the 49ers here. I don't care about, the Cardinals and what their defense look like. But yeah, defense needs something, whether it's better players, new defensive coordinator, maybe a mix of both. I don't know. I'm not sold that Kyle Shanahan is going to move on from Nick Sorensen, because to this point, it has seemed like he's kind of, thrown some trust and not compliments, but like he's given him the benefit of the doubt, I think. So I would expect Nick Sorensen to stay unless there is a very clear upgrade available out there, which there might be. Like, Jeff Ulbrich very well could be fired at the end of the season with the Jets. He's the interim head coach for them after Robert Saleh got fired. Robert Saleh, I don't think, would come back to the 49ers. But yeah, I mean, I think the only scenario in which you can move on from Nick Sorensen, okay, maybe not the only, but like a good scenario to move on from Sorensen if you have a clear upgrade available. So we'll see what happens on that front and what happens with Nick Sorensen after the season, if Kyle Shanahan decides to make any sweeping moves after that. Now, at this point, we have to have a conversation about special teams, and it's the conversation we've been having all freaking season at this point. From week 1 to week 18, special teams has been like the worst part of this team, worst special teams unit in the entire NFL, historically bad, I would say. And there's no excuse for it anymore. I mean, for one, you got Jake Moody, who couldn't kick a can down the road at this point. Like, his confidence is shot. He did make a 51-yarder today. I believe the one that he missed, he only had 2 attempts in this game. The one that he missed was a 47-yarder. Yeah, 47-yarder. So he made 51, missed from 47, did not have another field goal attempt after that. But I've seen enough. I think we've seen enough of Jake Moody and know that something needs to change there. At the very, very least, you have to bring in some competition for Jake Moody, come OTAs, training camp, and all that, at the very least. Now, at the very most, you have to move on from Brian Schneider. You can't. You can't go another season with Brian Schneider. Not only has he been mediocre at best this season, he's just been awful. And at no point this season has it looked like the special teams even improved, ever. And what made that very clear is like in the first quarter of this game, right? This game was like boring, but at the same time, like very eventful. In the first quarter of this game, the Cardinals attempt a fake punt. What do? They convert it. What do the 49ers do? They let them, because the special teams unit is cheeks. It's cheeks. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Like, and teams know, and they're gonna try fake punts, and they're gonna say stop us, and the 49ers are gonna be like, we can't, because we don't know what we're doing. That's just, I need something different. Brian Schneider, I hope, and I hate saying this because I don't like calling for people's jobs, but like, if you're not doing a good job, it's like, it's time. I hope the 49ers make the right decision there. There aren't a lot of easy decisions at times when it comes to, when your team has a losing season and it's clear you have to make changes. Not all changes are easy. Brian Schneider getting fired is probably the easiest decision the 49ers can make. And it would be the easiest step one to becoming better in 2025. So I hope that's what the 49ers do this week, and they need an entire overhaul of, the special teams unit. That includes a new kicker by Jake Moody. It means a new punter by Mitch Wishnowsky. I just overhaul it completely, please. Now, those are some of the things that we saw in this final 49ers game that we've known all too well throughout this season. Another thing that reared its ugly head, as it always does, I knew the 49ers had a lot of penalties, but I just looked at the total. They had 13 total penalties in this game. 13 penalties for 85 yards. The Cardinals had one penalty for 5 yards. I don't know about that. One just seems a little fishy to me, but 13, that I can believe. I can believe the 49ers had 13 penalties in this game. That is just atrocious. And also, the turnover margin for the 49ers was -3 in this game. That's another thing that has hurt them this season. I believe, what was it, since week 8, right? The 49ers have only had like 2 turnovers total since week 8. And the offense had, 3 turnovers in this game. They had the 2 interceptions from Dobbs. Actually, all of them came from Dobbs, the 2 interceptions and a fumble. And then, the Cardinals got all of those. So it's not good. That's another thing that needs to improve on both sides of the ball next season. Turnovers need to be an emphasis on defense. Taking care of the football needs to be an emphasis on offense once again. And so it's been a frustrating season. Again, like, we're concerned. I think I'm most concerned about some of the injuries and just making sure that those aren't, long-term for this team. In fact, I'm keeping tabs. I'm looking to see if we've gotten any updates on those yet. It doesn't seem like we do quite yet. But I will keep looking here and let you guys know. Yeah, the 49ers, again, to go back to the 49ers defense, now I'm just looking at some tweets and some stats, so I'm going to share them with you. David Lombardi posted this. Rush yards allowed by the 49ers defense in the final 3 weeks: 142, 166, 152. And that is that much of this game, actually. Like, the Cardinals barely even ran the ball today. Like, that was not part of their, like, emphasis for this game, which was kind of confusing because it's like, the 49ers have been struggling with this as of late. But they were passing the ball quite a bit. Kyler Murray, in fact, had 35 pass attempts in this game. They had, by running backs, they had a total of, let's see here, 23, I think, rushing attempts. And they finished with allowing over 150. 27 total if you count the quarterbacks and Greg Dortch. 127 attempts, 151 yards allowed rushing, 5.6 yards per carry average, 2 rushing touchdowns allowed, 1 to Tony Jones, who had the touchdown that late in the game that made it 47, and then Michael Carter had another. All right, so we're getting some updates. Kyle Shanahan is live right now. Isaac Guerrero, it's most likely an MCL sprain, but we'll get more tests Monday, according to Kyle Shanahan. MCL sprain seems like a good scenario, like a knee sprain of any kind. That's a great scenario over a tear, right? So we'll take that. But of course, we'll wait for the test results, MRIs that will take place tomorrow to know for sure. But early indications, MCL, that's a good sign for the 49ers. All right, let's see if there's anything else. I'm also concerned about Colton McKivitz, 49ers right tackle, who exited the game late in the fourth quarter. So we'll see what Kyle Shanahan has to say about that. I'm sure that update is potentially coming here in a bit. As far as the offensive line play, I'd like to take a deeper look at, how Zakelj has looked and how, the left tackles have looked, because they've mixed some guys up. They've had Charlie Heck in there, and then they had Matt Pleasance in there. But I want to see how those guys did and if there's anything good there. I thought Zakelj has been okay, certainly not terrible. So we'll see if there's any other updates. The Rams lost, so they're in the playoffs, but their seeding, I think, is impacted. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, the 49ers clinched the 11th overall pick in the NFL draft. That certainly is the sweet part of this bitter loss and bitter end to the season. Kyle Shanahan said he doesn't understand why Jauan Jennings was ejected. He said, quote, "Jauan blocks to the whistle every single play." And he also said that Jennings insisted to him that he didn't throw a punch. I don't think he threw the first punch, but he definitely was swinging something. So I don't know. I think that's what because if you watch the video back of the second pancake and second fight, definitely looked like Jennings did partake. But yeah, with the 11th pick in the draft, the 49ers, I think, are in a great position to address either offensive line or defensive line. It has to be, right? Either one of those, I think, will go a long way to helping this team get right back on track. Like I said, special teams is another one. If special teams was even just okay, I think the 49ers would look a lot different this season. By the way, I usually do these post games with Adam, my co-host. He wasn't able to join today. He was feeling under the weather. So Adam, hope you feel better. And I just want to thank Adam for doing these with me throughout the season. It hasn't been the season that, we wanted it to be, but it was always great chopping it up with him and discussing these wins and losses with him. So shout out to Adam. All right. It doesn't look like we're getting any more updates as far as, Colton McKivitz or anything like that, at least not that I've seen. Let me see. Patrick Taylor didn't do so bad for the 49ers today. He had 16 carries, 102 yards. Of course, after Isaac Guerrero exited, he became, the running back. And I think the 49ers only had 2 running backs active for this game. It was Guerrero and Patrick Taylor. So Patrick Taylor, it was his show after Guerrero exited, and he did great. It looks like he has nice vision, and just the way he moves, through lanes, I think is impressive. So I like him. All right. I don't think there's much else as far as the injury updates go right now. But again, I will be going live tomorrow with Weston, our 49K Player of the Week show. We're going to have a very short list, I think, of nominees for this one. Very short. But we'll also discuss, takeaways from this game as well and just the season. Throughout the week, going to be doing some postmortems, just talking about this game or this season really with Rob. Like I said, with Weston tomorrow, Rob, and then with Monica on Thursday. So make sure you guys tune into that. Make sure you guys like this video. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Audio listeners, leave a rating, leave a review. Last post-game show of the 2024 season. We're out. We'll be back tomorrow, though. Peace.